I'm supposed to do some kind of an intro, right?
I have no idea. Oh, yes, let me send you that. Shit.
Hello, welcome to SkepTalk. I am Aron Ra, and beside me is Brian Dalton. This is Mr. Deity. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing good. I'm concerned that you're going to end up with, I'm going to be doing this show on my own. You're going to be running to the hospital somewhere.
He's
And I am a
he's
lover of
handful,
snakes.
he's a
love
handful,
snakes.
he's a handful, but his venom is not. The fangs are the worst part. So,
Yeah.
And this is my false water cobra, Abath.
Nice.
Yeah, he's very, very, very fast, and that makes him difficult to handle.
He's very
all over the
handsome.
place. Oh, well, thank you so much. So, what
Such
do you
a
want to talk
handsome
about
boy.
today? Thank you so much. I love him. What do you want to talk about today, Dalton?
How about where is Jimmy Snow? What happened to Jimmy?
One of the things I'd like to talk about is on my T-shirt, because here in Texas, they just passed a law yesterday so that they have to display the 10 Commandments prominently in all public schools. Why, you ask? Because they want to lie to the students knowingly to convince them that America is a Christian nation, and they're going to try to make it one. And since they got that pesky Constitution in the way, they're going to try to start a new constitutional convention so that they can create a new constitution wherein they can just declare that America is a Christian nation and we're all fucked.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday, and they are kind of the whole idea of a constitutional convention so they can change the Constitution that we already have really is saying the quiet part out loud. Christians in this country have only loved this country because they thought it was a Christian nation. And when people like us started to push back and the courts agreed, hey, this isn't right, then they're like, oh, we don't love this country so much. We got to get the country that we thought it was. That's really the truth of it all. They want white Christian America, and that's the end of it. And they're going to fight. I just did a couple videos on this in the last couple months. They are just going to go out kicking and screaming. The demographics are not in their favor. They're headed out. They know it, but they are going to use every ounce of power they have to absolutely hold on, kicking and screaming, and trying. They're going to have to try to turn the country into an authoritarian state.
Yeah, and there are already states in which, Texas is one of them. I'm in one of them.
Yes,
there's Texas and Florida and a couple of others that are already going full on authoritarian. So another one of the major issues that's going on right now is one of the things that DeSantis recently changed in Florida, where snake owners used to be able to keep all of these snakes as long as they had license and had the snakes microchipped and all of that. And then Florida just arbitrarily changed the law and then lied to the people, saying if you already have these snakes and you're already following along with the laws that were previous, then your grandfathered in, you could just keep your snakes until the end of their life. And then FWC showed up at this guy's house and used a bolt gun on 35 of his snakes while he watched. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, and arrested him, charged him with obeying the previous law, really. So
Oh
that's
my
where our country's
God.
going. You're right. It is going to authoritarianism, wherein one of the heroes in all of this is Mickey fucking Mouse.
Yes. Yes. And Goofy. Let's not leave out Goofy. That's
I'm
one of
talking
the most
about Ron
horrible things
DeSantis' continual failures against Disney World.
yeah. That's one of the most horrible things I've heard recently, because I love animals and I love snakes, and oh my God, that's just so horrific. That is so horrific.
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell? I can't believe this country anymore where I'm living. I was about to head out of here a couple of years ago. I was going to move to Portugal, and
Well, I know somebody who
then
just tried that. I know somebody who just
yeah.
tried that, a heavy metal guitarist who had a side job teaching in a Christian school, and then he got fired when they found out that he was an atheist. He was in an atheist metal band, and when the school found out that, they fired him, and then he found
Oh,
out in
you're
the court
kidding.
that Christian schools don't have to obey laws like all other schools do. So he said, "That's it. That's it. I have no rights in this country. I'm leaving." So he took
Wow.
off to Colombia. He's been there for a couple of months, bought a restaurant, and then found out that immigration's not going to let him do that. They're going to force him to come back to the U.S.
Oh
So he doesn't
wow.
even have the right to leave. Can you believe that people are trying to get out of this country and they're not being allowed to leave to go to Colombia?
When I left Mormonism, they like, here, let us show you out. We're so happy you're leaving. There was no. It was so funny because I went over to my bishop's. There's my girls, Juji, stop.
What's the dog's
I
name?
went over Juji. Her racing name was Penrose Jewel. She's a former racing greyhound, but
Oh, nice.
Penrose Jewel is no fun to say, and it's long, and so we cut it. We took the Jew and then put a G at the end for greyhound, and it's Juji. So
Okay.
anyway, I went over to my bishop's house. I had written my letter. I actually contacted a Christian organization. I can't remember what it was called. They were out here in Orange County, but I contacted them to learn what I needed to put in my letter of resignation, as I called it. Um, and I wrote my letter of resignation, and I took it over to my bishop's house. And then I thought he would open it in front of me, and he didn't. He just stood there talking with me, chatting with me about things, and I kind of realized, oh, he's not going to open it right here. Okay, I guess I'll leave, which was so anticlimactic. And then I expected that I would get a letter saying something about, coming to a church court, and that didn't happen either. They didn't want to hear from me. They're see ya, bye bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, because
keep the
I had
audience entertained
started.
keep the
Yeah,
audience entertained with
yeah.
that story for just a moment. I'll be right back.
All right. I was going to church still a little bit, although at that point I hadn't gone for a while. But when I was going, I asked a lot of uncomfortable questions that made people feel uneasy. And so I think they were all like, okay, all right, he's gone. He's gone. Thank Elohim. So they were thrilled to see me go.
What are you drinking tonight, Dalton?
I've just got I got this chemical thing called H2O that I like a lot.
Oh, yes, hydrogen monoxide.
Yes, I don't drink any. I'm not a liquor person or beer or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, well,
So
my wife brought me something special today. This is a giant can of vanilla barrel sombre, 15.5% ABV.
wow.
Yeah, so it was aged in bourbon barrels, and I think they forgot to take the bourbon out. Yeah,
I always
that's
I like to say I've been sober now. What would it be? 43 years. I got drunk once. I think when I was 13 or 14, and had a bad experience. It was not a very clean experience. Let's put it that way. And I just decided I'm done with that. Always, that's not a Great Pyrenees, is it? Couldn't see. Oh, is it a what? Is it a white golden, or is it just a golden? Oh, I can't hear you for some reason.
I had to mute because he was barking. But yeah, he's polydactyl in the back feet. So yeah, he's Great Pyre.
Wow. It's one of my favorite
and I
dogs.
love him. He's super loyal, but he barks almost constantly, which makes having this kind of a living almost impossible. I have to ride the mute button.
Luckily, my girls are generally very quiet unless they see someone walking by, and then they have to scare them away and protect Daddy, which I think is awesome. I'm always amazed when I leave and then I come back and all my stuff is still here. And I tell them, you guys did such a great job. Look at that. All of Daddy's stuff is still here. Just the most amazing creatures.
I've told you about the atrocities going on in Florida and in Texas. Tell me, how bad are things in California?
Oh, they're terrible. It's like 90 degrees here today, which is really obnoxious, but it's going back down. It's not a trend. It's just like a 2-day thing. But that's about the worst you can say. We all worship here at the altar of Lord Newsom and thank him for his protections for our civil rights, regardless of what the Supreme Court would allow some of the crazy people to do here. I will say the one thing that's I mean, I hate LA. I'm not an LA person. I'm much more a New York kind of guy. But in terms of tolerance and I mean, all my neighbors are just salt of the earth. Even my next door neighbor here on this side of me, who is a Republican and a Catholic, just the sweetest woman. She was not a Trump fan or anything like that. That, you know, it's even most of the right here, with the exception of certain areas, is not your, you know, they're more your John McCain type Republicans than certainly I don't think any of them would even go for Ron DeSantis if he were running for president here. I just don't think they would pull that far to the right. They'd probably go for Uncle Joe.
I find it a little bit alarming when one of the things that they do here is like, was it in Florida that they just passed a law where one of DeSantis' little gems, you know, preparing for the presidency, how does he make himself appealing? By taking away more people's rights. So he passed a law, if I remember this correctly, because this was, again, I think just yesterday, where a law was passed in Florida, I'm pretty sure, that doctors or medical health professionals may now refuse care to people who are genderqueer. Not just trans, but just, you know, for religious reasons.
This is in Florida?
Yeah, I think it was Florida. So you're sick, but I think you're gay, so I'm not going to help you because I'm an arrogant, pseudo superior, holier than thou piece of shit.
I know some other state in the northern Midwest did the same thing very recently. It's just horrific, and it's something you wouldn't have even imagined 5 years ago. You know, it just 6.
A bit surprising. Yeah. 5 years ago, let's see, we had just passed marriage equality, right? We think we're catching up to Ireland and Mexico, right? When I was a kid, we used to make fun of some other countries because, you know, America's the best damn country there. What happened? Yeah. All these other places start passing us by and like everything. And not only are we hitting the brakes, but we seem to be going backwards.
Yes. I do think, though, I mean, I just did a video last month about the demographics, because I think ultimately demographics are going to be destiny if we can keep the right wing from using their power to to destroy democracy and to embolden the authoritarians. But
And
they
you
are
hear
gonna.
all the time.
We're gonna have. The next 10 years, I think, are just gonna be a lot of kicking and screaming, and them trying to get away with anything they can. Was there someone caught on a hot mic that I heard talking about basically that they don't want it's the old what was his name, the conservative who said in 1980, we don't want everyone voting. Just saying it out loud. But something similar, I think, I thought I read this was caught on tape recently of Republicans talking about how, they don't want people voting. We gotta stop the people who are not voting for us from voting.
When you have a
which
minority
is not
position,
democracy.
when you have a minority
Yes.
position that is so grossly unpopular, and it's all about marginalizing other people, significant portions of the population, then you want significant portions of the population to not vote.
Right. That's the only way to do it. When they were in the majority, they were all okay with this democracy thing. And now that they see that, we're not going to be in the majority. Oh shit! We better stop that whole.
What do you expect from a country that was founded by a bunch of guys in high heels and stockings and wigs with makeup,
and who had people as property? Yeah. Without, a lot of people never think about it this way, but when I've actually talked to people and put it this way, a light goes on when you talk about slavery, for instance, and you say to people, "Do you realize these were people who had not a single constitutional right? Like after we had our Constitution, we decided this is what people should be free to do. These are the rights that they should have, except for this one entire race of people who will have not a single right, not the right to life, not the right to liberty, not the right to say what they wanted or go where they wanted." It's so atrocious. And that's how we started this country, with that burden on us.
Yeah, well, it's funny to me that there was somebody at the time who I believe owned slaves, because that was the tradition. This country was founded by a bunch of rich landowners, and everybody had slaves. But somebody realized the hypocrisy. I wish I could remember the name, but somebody realized, we're saying that all men are created equal, but we've all got slaves, and maybe we shouldn't. Maybe if we're gonna say that all men are created equal, then maybe they all really should be. And the southern states unanimously said, "No, fuck you. You can't. We're not going to be part of your country if we can't have slaves."
Right.
So it's just remarkable that the South was a problem 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 100 years from now.
Yesterday, yes, today, tomorrow, forever. Yeah. Oh, God.
Is it something in the water?
Maybe it's the accent. Maybe if we can get the accent, them to change the accent. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been cautioned against making fun of people's accents.
Yes.
All right. So, do we have questions from? Do we have Arden? Do we have questions?
You have 2 callers on the line.
I have 2 callers. All right, let's do that.
Okay. Do you have call in studio up?
Call in studio. That's my responsibility, isn't it?
Yep.
My apologies. I saw somebody in the chat that criticized me, saying that I just shit on professionalism. Well, I'm a professional at that. Okay, and do I click? Yeah. All right. So, Arden, which one of these things do I hit? Host show, configure, click here, sign in. What do I do?
Oh, so if you're on the front page,
I think I'm looking at it. Well, this is band.
Oh, yeah. You have host shows, screen calls, or config. Go to host show.
Host show. Okay, I think that's where I'm at.
Yep, and then you have the host queue. any one of those. You just hit the talk button.
I'm so glad Jimmy's not here because he would be all over my ass right now.
Probably, yeah.
All right, so let's get Helios. They, them, Helios. All right, I'll hit it. Okay, talk. Helios, you're on SkepTalk.
Yeah, no, I was trying to say you didn't press the button, but of course you didn't press the button, so you couldn't hear me.
Shut up.
So yeah, the thing is, about a week ago, someone called my attention to a very, very stupid bigot that pissed me off enough that I wanted to make a response video, even if no one responded and no one cared. But because I have to say something true, that also means I have to watch that stupidity. And it really is stupid. It's a combination talking head of Tucker Carlson, Kent Hovind, and a whole bunch of other small fry that are so wrong that they cannot be considered right or wrong. For example, in the first 30 seconds, he calls all atheists closed-minded idiots. Then he calls any atheist that talks about atheism radical and militant. And then he makes transphobic remarks as well as denigrating the West, because to him the West is just the Americas. He does all that in 30 seconds. It's a 50-minute video.
Did you say 50 or 15?
I didn't say any
50
numbers.
or 15? You said it's a 15-minute video or a 50? 50. Okay. Wow. If he did all that in the first 5 seconds, then just imagine what he would do in 50 minutes.
Yeah, about 500 claims conservatively that are spectacularly wrong. So I don't need any help debunking him.
You know what's really frustrating about that? You know what's really...
Yeah.
I have the same problem. I mean, there's people in my family, I go over to their place and suddenly all the graphs are upside down. Suddenly everything that George W. Bush did wrong is somehow Obama's fault. And they'll blame Obama for whatever W did wrong in the previous administration. It's like there's no kind of reality anymore. It's like when you have somebody that has 1,500 statements and every single one of them is wrong, and the most frustrating thing is you can never get a concession on any of them. Never. You'll never get them to admit, well, okay, you're right about this one thing, but what about these other 500 things? No, they'll never admit that one thing. Doesn't matter how you prove it. You can prove it all you want to. And they'll say, well, it's just your opinion. It's not my opinion. I'm showing you right here. Doesn't matter. They'll say all kinds of things about what they are doing, right? But you can't get them to show. Okay, pull it up. Pull it up on the web. Let me see what the left is doing. You know, they can't. I can show. I can show what some
to tell you like
what specific Republican
he does really quickly.
Yeah, I can show specific things that a named conservative is doing, or direct quote right now. I can show it right now. Happened today. It's on the Senate. It's on the news. Let me show you. No, they're not. They're going to deny that. That's my opinion. What you can objectively verify on your own independently is my opinion, and you get to believe. That's the problem I'm having with my own family. So I feel for you with total strangers doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, silver lining, most of my family is dead because the life expectancy here isn't very stable or normal. It's like 50 to 60 years. But the few family that is left alive is about...
And it's okay to say where you're
donkey.
calling from. It's okay to say where you're calling from, right? Elios?
Not the city, but the country, yes. The general area code is kind of giving it away because of what I'm talking about.
That's not what I mean. If I can say the country, then I'll just say the country. So you're calling from Serbia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Also, Serbia has this thing in schools. Every school that I am aware of is more or less required to have the option for Christian kids to study Christianity. It doesn't require anyone else to study Christianity. There is an opt-out class that you basically do nothing because no one cares. But basically every school has to have at least once a week one Christian class. Doesn't matter how much of the class subscribes to it, doesn't matter how much of the class goes to it, but every school has to have it. You can't say anything negative about religion in public places for... who cares? But that video, that talking head, is the person that is representing those arguments, is homophobic, thinks women are property, is anti-abortion, tons of conspiracies about COVID and anti-vaxxers, is a younger creationist, just any far-right view and conspiracy you can think of, he is. And because far-right people in this country support Trump, he is also a Trump supporter.
Of course. And you've just described about half my family.
A Trump supporter in Europe. Just...
Yeah, I'm kind of mystified.
Yeah. It
So
boggles my mind too. It's melting it. I'm trying so desperately to preserve the very few brain cells I have left, and this isn't helping. But I still have to do it.
It's always been a mystery to me how Trump ever had any appeal to anyone, because when I hear him speak, and this is long before he ran for president, when I hear him speak, I hear someone who is essentially a crime boss. That's what I hear. I hear somebody who is a patent liar, and someone who has absolutely no idea what they're talking about and is just used to making shit up on the fly and owning everything about, he owns the buildings that these people live in. He's holding their paychecks in his hand, and he often doesn't pay. So you better show respect, because that's the only thing that might get him to sign your check. That's the impression I get from this guy. How regular, everyday, blue-collar people ever decided to say, oh, he speaks for me? That's stunning. He gives less than a shit about most of the people who support him.
Yeah. But the most frightening thing about this is that the reason this talking head is there, it's actually some TV channel on a cable network, but they upload some segments to YouTube, and the entire YouTube comment section that I have been able to read is hundreds of comments unanimously supporting him. Basically all of them saying, God bless, thank you for doing this, and so on and so forth. Just it bothers me that most of my country thinks that way. It's kind of frightening, to be honest. And when I tell that to people, they think, no, surely it's not that bad. Yeah, I'm sure you're over-exaggerating it. And stuff, but come on, how much do I have to say this? It's an independently verifiable fact. I'm not making shit up. Maybe I'm pronouncing it in a way that would let
You mentioned your friend is a young Earth creationist, right? Okay, so here's what my extensive experience.
Please don't call him my friend. I do not want to associate with the entire country, much less that talking head.
All right, this person,
impersonator.
The person you're speaking of is a young Earth creationist, which means he's going to be using the wrong definitions for practically everything. And when you show him 10 different definitive sources to give the same consensus definition, he will deny that. And he'll say, you're making it up. You made up all the dictionaries that existed in 1828 that already gave this definition. Somehow you're making this up. These people have no association with the truth. They have no love for the truth. They're not bound to the truth. They want to make believe something else. So they will be against all kinds of things that end in the sound ism without knowing what the meanings of any of those words are. And there's no way that you can correct them because they simply do not correct their own errors, ever. They'll never admit a mistake. They don't. That's why they don't recognize a pattern. Gee, I've been wrong 1,000 times out of 1,000 times so far. Maybe I'm wrong this time too. No. They don't ever recognize they were ever wrong. It doesn't matter that every sentence that they bring to you is incorrect and you have to correct every single fucking sentence. They'll never admit they ever got anything wrong, period. It's a post-truth world where their imagination overrides reality. Yeah, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, and I don't want to be rude about that, but did you have something else we need to talk about, or should I get to the next call?
I just wanted to mention that we also have a problem with gaslighting and authority figures. Mainly that anyone half a year to a year older than you, in my personal experience, I can't say what it was for earlier or later inhabitants. It's very person to person how you will experience it. But everyone a little bit older than you has this enormous superiority complex when they're talking to you and don't acknowledge anything you say, nothing, just complete gaslighting into whatever they say is right, whatever you say is wrong because you said it. It also bugs me.
Yeah.
That's
I get
problem
that.
with teachers, actually, here.
There used to be a thing where if you said something, you had to be able to show that what you said is correct, and if you couldn't show that it was correct, it's not. You didn't get the benefit of the doubt. If you couldn't show the truth of what you said, there was no truth in what you said, and you were disrespected. But you don't live in that world anymore.
A geology teacher once said that 80% of the chocolate we consume is orphan blood, and she didn't care. She didn't provide anything. She says, that's how it is. Don't you dare contradict me.
Okay.
That was that.
All right.
I don't know where to go with that, but I think I'm going to have to bid you adieu and take on the next caller.
Yeah.
Is that all right? All right.
It's fine. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Helios.
I get this dark chocolate from Turkey that I really love, and now he's ruined it. He's ruined it all.
All right. So now we are speaking with Zach in Utah. Zach is an atheist and dealing with apologetics. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Zach. Absolutely, yes.
Yep. Hey, Zach.
Great.
So,
thanks for taking my call. My question is, I like to get in debates with people on the topic of religion, mostly in online like text form. I find that text lets me formulate my thoughts better and, create a comprehensive response to what is being said. But particularly lately, I've got into it with a few Muslim apologists, and this is also true for Christians and other religious believers, but I just have found myself getting really frustrated that they don't respond to the points that I make or the arguments that I make. Instead, it feels like I'm fighting a hydra where I cut down one bad argument and then 3 new unrelated ones take its place. And like, for example, this one thread, I was trying to make the simple point that if God exists and is all-knowing about the future, he knows what will happen in the future, then libertarian free will is impossible because I don't have a choice. I will do what God knows that I will do in the future, for example. And then the consequence of that being, if God is then omnipotent and created all of us, knowing that we would go to hell, for example, then he's responsible for that. And somehow that conversation ended up on how I don't understand quantum mechanics and how it's possible for causes to, for effects to precede causes, and it just went kind of totally off the rails. So I was just wondering, I don't know, what are some pointers on how to keep a conversation like that focused and, drill down on the point. Like, you can't force anyone to acknowledge a point that you make, I guess, but what are your thoughts on that?
That's the same discussion we just had with Helios. We have people that what you're talking about who don't care what the reality is. They want to believe what they want to believe, and they're going to find a way to believe that, and it doesn't matter if it's true or not. And believers have often asked me, why does it have to be true before I believe it? Why can't I believe it anyway? So is that an admission that they already know that it's not true and they don't care? I've had Christians say, why would I consider it dangerous to base all my life's decisions on false information? They want to justify the belief system that they hold. But is that not a tacit admission that they already know that the information is false?
Yeah. I guess it does definitely. It depends a lot on if they just really they don't care whether their beliefs are true. That just doesn't really make sense to me. I know I've heard you talk about this a lot before, where for me, I basically only care if a belief I hold is true or not. And if I find out a belief that I hold is true or is not true, then I'll discard it immediately. So I don't know. I guess.
Let me take it one step further and see if you're still with me. When you find that the reason you believed something, you don't have to prove that it's not true, but when you realize that there wasn't sufficient reason to believe it in the first place, have you already stopped believing it?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That's true for me. And I guess, I don't know, there's just different types of minds that work in different ways, and some other people don't seem to, at least they don't seem to feel that way about it. So.
Well, Christianity's premier apologist last year, let the cat out of the bag, William Lane Craig, talked about how he became a Christian because he heard the story, and these are his words. It was so wonderful and fantastic. Wonderful, fantastic. He said that he decided right there and then, if there's a 1 in a million chance that it's true, you got to believe it. You got to believe it. And of course, my thinking on that, I'm sure you're with me on this, Aron, is if you're going to go for the wonderful and fantastic, you got to become a Mormon, don't you? I mean, you become a god. You get your own universe. It's universalist. There's no hell, so everyone
Yeah.
gets some degree of glory. If we're going purely on the wonderful and the fantastic, I'm right there. I got to go get dunked again. Because they're
I
they're
can't. I
not.
just
I'm
can't.
not.
I just can't get over the 99% false.
What does that mean? I'm not sure what that means.
If there's a one in a what was it? A one in a million chance. That means 999,999.
Yes. Yeah.
It's false.
Oh, is that a problem for you? Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, I guess I could see how that theoretically could put a wrench in the machine, but yeah, that whole falsity thing, um, kind of a bummer, kind of a big bummer. Yeah,
I want to show
that's
off
funny.
this one. This is my
Now, what is
baby.
this?
This is my baby false water cobra. Her
Oh,
name is
wow.
Tatiana. She's named after the singer from Ginger.
She's gorgeous too.
Yes, and she will be
Beautiful.
10 feet
Beautiful.
long in a couple of years.
Nice.
But just an itty bitty baby now.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a cutie.
Yeah, and only mildly venomous.
I think, Zach, I think some good approaches are being had in the street epistemology kind of way of talking to other people. I think there are a couple people who are really good at that on YouTube that you can kind of follow and pick up some stuff. The Pine Creek channel, very good at that. Don't listen to his political channel. He'd hate me saying that, but I'm sorry. I gotta warn people off of the political channel. I'm pretty easy. I'm pretty easy on atheists who come from religious conservative backgrounds because it took me 16 years. I got out of theism in '92, but I didn't leave political conservatism till probably 2006. So that's, what is that, 14 years? It might have been a little longer, but I mean, I voted for W twice. When I think back on that, I'm absolutely horrified. I'm just horrified. So I give a little leeway. He converted from being a Mennonite. Holy sh! I mean,
I voted.
That might be.
I voted for a libertarian once. I feel you.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I'm a little more patient than a lot of people on the left about that, because I know how hard the indoctrination is to get over. I mean, it was harder for me to get over the political indoctrination than it was the religious indoctrination. That's kind of amazing. But that kind of approach where you start asking people questions, that's what it's about. It's kind of the Socratic method, and you engage in people by asking them questions. And it just slowly chips away at their stuff. I would also recommend that you point them to Mr. Deity, because there's nothing like satire and comedy to get people. It's hard to like really resist an idea that you laugh at, because laughing is such an involuntary response, and your whole body knows there's some truth in what's being said here because I'm laughing. And I think a lot of the people who use a little bit of humor, and there's a lot of them, non-stamp collector, Aron Ra. I'm having a brain freeze. Some of the more funny. God, I can't think. Anyway,
Wait, you talk about that. Go ahead.
That's another way to approach it, just with a little bit of satire. I like full-on mockery and ridicule. That's my thing now. I do that a little more because I've grown impatient. I've been out of religion for 30 years, and this year is, in fact, March was officially my 30th. I became an atheist about a year before I left Mormonism, so I've been 31 years an atheist, and
I'm
March
curious about
of
that. You became an atheist a year before you left Mormonism.
Yes, because I didn't see atheism as a problem with Mormonism, because atheism is about a big G God, and Mormonism doesn't have a big G God. So I didn't think it really affected me. And it doesn't really theologically. There could be all kinds of small G gods still without a big G God. I was convinced the big G triomni God did not exist about a year before I left, and then I kind of stuck in it. Although like I said, I was a pain in the tuchus for my fellow believers, because I once that happened, I started questioning everything. I wanted to rethink everything, and I had just started on a path where I was going to put everything I believed to the side, at least in the religious context, and then look into it and see if I could pick it back up and take it with me, and be able to look myself in the mirror and say, yes, I believe this. I really believe this. And I went pretty methodically about it, and that was the first thing that went. I decided, let's start with the big things, and then get more specific as I moved on. But I do think just asking questions is a great way to do it, because it leads them to the conclusion. Instead of telling them, if you can ask the questions and ask the right questions and ask them in the right way, instead of telling them or confronting them with facts that they really don't want to hear, you're letting them do the thinking for themselves, and they'll think their way out of it. If they're the thing is, though, you do have to find people who care about the truth and who want their beliefs to correspond with reality. And if you get in it with somebody and you realize that's not even on the table, I just don't waste your time. It's just going to be frustrating. Your blood pressure is going to go up, and you're just going to be very annoyed.
Yeah, that's definitely great advice. I will definitely look at that. I actually did, so I wasn't familiar with you, Mr. Deity, before this show. I just saw that you were going to be on, and I checked out some of your videos before, so I'll definitely keep doing that.
Good. Oh, look at this.
I guess
Holy
one
shit.
more thing you may have guessed already, since I'm calling from Utah. I was also raised Mormon, and
yes.
Came out of that around 8 years ago, I think. And I think your experience that you explained there, no matter how weird it may sound to those who weren't Mormon, it rings true a little bit with me too. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
And thanks for your advice, and I'll let you guys go on to other callers.
Okay, by the way, I just want to tell you real quick, you will get a little more out of Mr. Deity episodes than most people, because there's almost always some kind of little thing that I've thrown in there from my Mormon past. So I think Mormons get just a little more laughter out of it, or a little more okay.
All right.
Now, who is this, and what kind of, is this a python? Aron?
This is a Colombian red-tailed boa, or also known as a boa constrictor imperator. Okay. His name is Amaru, because that is a Colombian indigenous name for snake god.
Look at that head. That's gorgeous.
Yep, he's an old boy, and he's kind of a rehome. Somebody had to surrender him that couldn't take care of him anymore, and so we said, okay, well, he needed a forever home. And he wasn't going to be good for breeding and that sort of thing, but he just needed a place to be with people who cared about him. So I said, okay, well, he's coming home with me.
By the way, I just realized one of my dreams in life is to have someone look at me and say, look at that head. Isn't that gorgeous? One day. It may happen. It may happen.
Okay, so we are now speaking with Samantha. And Samantha, is in England.
Hello. Hi, I hope you can hear me okay.
Oh, love the accent.
Yes, we can. Well, there's a little weirdness in the, but we'll get past it.
Sorry, okay. Yeah, hi, thank you for letting me on.
All right, and what would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I'm only 26. I would say I've been like a born again believer Christian for about 6, coming up to 7 years maybe. And I wasn't really part of a church. It was more that I never grew up religious, but I always knew there was something more out there, just generally. But I sort of found that in my harder times, that was something to hold on to, that there could be something good out there, more powerful, and like, you know, a nice place to go to when you die. And no, I had like powerful experiences, like, which I thought was encounters with God. Yeah, then about about 3.5 years ago, I met up my first church, and it's like a fundamentalist, somewhat messianic, very conservative church that are known, and I won't say who they are. They're known on YouTube for like street preaching and getting in trouble a lot for it. So they sort of go with controversy a bit. But I made very good friends there, and I started with worship team. I helped with street evangelism, and the angry reactions we got was just sort of part of it and was normalized. And it was like they didn't believe in evolution at all. That was what the ceremonies were about, just talking about evolution, basically, very anti-LGBT. But then they knew that I struggled with same-sex attraction, but I just didn't partake in it. You know, I just didn't engage with it. But I've left in November for different reasons. It was quite a toxic place, quite cult-like, I would say. There was quite a lot of bad times there. But it was more with what they were preaching to the outsiders, how harsh they were. It was more like me watching and just thinking, we're either representing God wrong, but I think, you know, just Christians can be very toxic and mean, and I don't think that's love. And I've left in November, getting harassed for 6 months still, but yeah, and I'm like deconstructing now. So what I've been deconstructing, and was more that I would just like to discuss, to like hear your views, because I've been watching a lot of atheist sort of like debates online, and a lot of your videos on here. I just found like a couple of weeks ago. I'm not too familiar with either of you, but I found them interesting, and mine was like one, you know, like God's omnipresent. You know, we call him like our Father in heaven. So that was my church. I would sort of go with that's a male authority sort of gender. But for me, because he's everything, then he's not male or female. So in my mind, that was a bit like when people are funny about pronouns. It was a bit like, well, God's not any of them things. He's like male and female, maybe. The other thing was like the book of Job was something I've always struggled with. Sorry?
We lost you there for just a second.
Yeah,
Sorry,
can you
what
say the
was that?
last sentence again? Can you say the last sentence again, please?
Then it was like the book of Job. In the Bible, the book of Job, the story about, you know, when God allowed Satan to take everything from Job. Stuff like that. The sort of stories made me question how I've always talked about God as loving, as all good, trying to excuse some sort of stories in the Bible, along with like how he sends a beast to kill these little kids when they said this like silly joke, and like killing thousands of people, and you know, a lot of genocide. was that God's love is greater than our understanding, and that's why it might seem one. But for me, I think if God's real, and the Bible's completely true, while taking in context as well, and I've always been told there's no contradictions in the Bible, and I've always struggled with that. I just see the contradiction is that God's meant to be love, but whilst that's what God's meant to be, there's a lot of hate, and that's how I've been thinking. Well, God's created evil too.
Yeah, Isaiah 45, 5, 6, and 7. So if I may summarize your question into something that I experienced myself, I was always taught that God was love and wisdom and forgiveness and all of that, and that if I were to read the Bible, I would then get tuned into the most amazing mind. But what I in fact experienced in trying to read the Bible was that I was not reading from a superior being. I was reading from very inferior beings, and I couldn't get very far into the Bible before I realized that this is not God speaking. This is Bronze Age and Iron Age savages who don't understand fuck all and are just writing their own bigotry in here. That's what I got. It was enormously disappointing for me, genuinely believing that when I read the Bible, I'm going to get the words of the ultimate intelligence in the universe. And I got dumbassery, and that's it.
I had such a similar experience when I wasn't very religious as a kid. My dad never bought it. He just converted for the family. And then I got the bug. I got bitten by it when I was 17. And the big thing for me was growing up Mormon. I thought when I finally went into the temple, oh, this is where we're going to get the deep stuff. This is where it's all going to be revealed to me. And you go in there and your very first time, you're like, what was that? There was just nothing transcendent about it at all. It was very silly. And I remember walking out of there just thinking, okay, so I hit the top level there. And there's really nothing beyond that. Wow, amazing! But your points are great about a loving God, particularly if you are a fundamentalist Christian and you believe a bunch of us are going to go to hell. The idea of creating a place or creating anything where ultimately all kinds of horrific stuff is going to happen, and then the vast majority of us are going to be tortured forever for simply not believing or whatever it is. I'm wondering, Samantha, how are you doing now in all of this? How's your mental health, and are you finding community of people like you, and how is that going?
So I will explain that what I'd like to get to eventually was about the hell and free will, because you sort of I just wanted that. But since I've left, I tried to leave a few times, but it gets quite nasty when you leave if you've got a ministry role. I've seen it happen to others.
You said you'd been harassed.
Not online more than anything. No, it's been up and down, but I'm a lot better that I've left. Good. I haven't been in a church, and I feel so much better for it. Now I'm just, I'm watching a lot of deconstructing sort of videos of people that have left it, because I think my fear now, I still believe, I don't know if I believe in hell, but because, especially if it's a hellfire sort of preached in church, you sort of start to fear hell, and that's ingrained in you. So that's what I'm trying to learn to get over, that fear.
Right.
But
let me help you with that if
yeah,
I
I
can.
don't know.
My wife was raised with all of the fire and brimstone, hell, damnation thing, and we're part of a broken home, what they used to call. So you have the half family that's a Protestant, and you have the other half of the family that's Catholic, and they're both saying that the other parent is going to go to hell. So how does a child grow up believing that one of her parents is going to go to hell and never being able to know which one, because it's a roll of the dice? And here's the other quandary: is that both parents are so dedicated to their religion, right? They're sacrificing all of their worldly joys for God, and yet God is going to choose one of them because they random dice roll chose the right religion or happened to be born into the right religion, and that's all it takes.
Right.
If you're a Sikh and you dedicate your life to God, if you're Muslim and you dedicate your life to God, and you choose the wrong God, you're still going to hell. You're going to somebody's hell.
Yes.
So here's the thing. If there was a God, I realized that hell is inconsistent with God. Period.
Yeah.
There can't be a hell no matter whose God it is. No God, no real God, no God worthy of worship, no God that has any of the attributes that they say of God, that he's wise, that he's righteous, that he's just, that he's love, that he's wisdom, that he any of that would not allow a hell to exist. The only reason hell exists is because it was manufactured by people who couldn't sell the bullshit story about heaven. Because if you think about heaven for a minute too long, which is usually 2 minutes, then you realize there's huge problems with the heaven concept. But you can think about hell all day and it's still just as fucked up. So they invented hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that too. Like, especially like, one thing I couldn't really stand with is how the Bible, cannot be changed throughout time or added in just through like, society with like the hierarchy of people and like white men.
You mean
and
where
then
the Bible says that
everything else.
you cannot add to or subtract from these books? But then we have a half a dozen books that were deleted from the Old Testament by human authors, and then you had the whole New Testament was added to it. And then in the New Testament, it says, again, that you can't add to or subtract from, but you've already added the New Testament, and then there are human editors that removed another half dozen or so books.
Yeah, the bit about hell was, what I want to say was, what I was taught by my pastor was, because I always struggled with the idea, trying to believe the Bible's completely true, there's no contradictions. Then I was going down the route really thinking, okay, well, according to the Bible, we don't really have free will. I couldn't get my head around that, and my church was very against Calvinism and all that. They always rebuked it in ceremonies. But really,
kudos for you for figuring out. Kudos for you for figuring out that according to the Bible, you can't have free will. I talk to believers all the time that have never pieced that together. How is it that God knows everything you're going to do before you do it, and yet you pretend that you have free will?
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do to surprise God. You can't change your mind.
You don't have it.
Exactly. If he's already prophesied what's going to happen, 100 years or 1,000 years in the future, despite billions of interactions between humans where anybody can make an independent decision if we had free will, so that all of that future stuff would be changed, but God already knows it, which means we don't have the ability to change any of those minds. None of those billions of interactions, none of them can change. We are all fixed. It's just like if Jesus said in Jesus Christ Superstar, everything is fixed and you can't change it.
Yeah. The thing I was told by my pastor was like predestination versus forgot the other one, like predetermination, I think it's called. So like I don't know if that was for words, but there was like two terms theology wise. So he sort of said in terms of like how God sees who goes to hell, he just creates his best guess which people are going to hell by their behaviour. He doesn't, he hasn't picked and chose who's going to end up going to hell, but and doesn't send anyone to hell, but he just makes his best guess. And I didn't really, I couldn't really debate him. He's a theologian, like done all these studies, but I didn't really agree with that still, because I just feel like with Satan's downfall, God knew that was going to happen, and still it happened. So I just felt the whole Bible was more of a script. The thing that keeps me believing, though, is somewhat believing still, is like revelations, like the prophecies that in end times, because I'm seeing that happening everywhere, and things like getting fulfilled. And
clarify that for me, would you please?
A bit like like with the third temple, that in Revelation says will be the Antichrist and stuff. There's talk of the third temple, things like that, and like I know. I don't think it's like the facts and all that, but I'm like like the mark of a beast and things going digital. I do see like that's been predicted somewhat.
You're
now,
correct.
Like on the other end,
say that they would wear the mark of their beast on their forehead. They just didn't say that it would be a red ball cap that says MAGA.
Make a logo again.
Yeah.
By the way, somebody asked me in the chat what I'm drinking right now. This is a 32-ounce can at 15.5 ABV, and my best recommendation for this is if you drink one of these cans by yourself, do not operate farm equipment in excess of 70 miles per hour.
Samantha, I would say there are a lot of really good biblical scholars on the other side of some of these prophecy questions who've written terrific books. I'm trying to think. Randall Helms, I can't remember what Randall Helms' book is called. It might just be called Biblical Prophecy, where once you actually start to look into the biblical prophecies and the original language and the meanings of how they were written, you start to see that they were really all kind of tweaked later on by Christians or even some of the gospel writers to kind of fit, and it's kind of a reverse engineered kind of thing, or they're just dead wrong completely. Obviously the most simple example is the virgin birth, where there's no actual prophecy of the Messiah being born of a virgin. It's speaking about a girl who is pregnant at that time, not into the future. So biblical prophecy has just been notoriously unreliable, and I don't think it's any different with Revelations. Clearly, I think you would have nuclear war before you're going to get another temple built on the Temple Mount, because you would have to destroy the Dome of the Rock, and I just can't ever see that happening without nuclear war.
Yeah.
And that has to be built before the Messiah returns or comes the first time, depending on who you're talking about. And then, Jews will tell you there's absolutely no prophecy about a Messiah coming twice. He's good enough to do the job the first time,
Yeah. But yeah, I guess because I have found contradictions in the Bible, quite a lot, and also like we said about free will, that the Bible's completely true, then we don't really have free will, and
Samantha, I don't mean to cut you off, but we've been like 15 minutes with you, and I've got other callers waiting. Do you mind if I trust and I hope that we've satisfied your curiosity on this, and I do need to get to the next caller. Do you mind?
Yeah, that's fine. No, it was good. I've been watching your debates, and I like how, there's no cognitive dissonance with either of you. I'm seeing that in a lot of religions, like brainwashing, and you can just have a normal talk with people. But yeah, no, it was just like good to talk to people that can see where I'm coming from. And yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Find some community once you get out. If you decide to leave.
By the way, I think that most of the audience, I think that the audience is more likely to be familiar with me. But if you haven't seen Brian Dalton's, if you haven't seen his channel, look up Mr. Deity. He does comedic work. I do science-based stuff and counter-apologetic stuff, but Brian more does comedic stuff, and it's some of his stuff is brilliant. I really can't extol it enough.
Well, thank you. I do the comedic work because I can't do the stuff that you do, Aron.
You have done stuff that you've done stuff that was so good that I'm proud that I know him.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you very much. You do that all the time. Every video I see, I'm like, oh shit, I'm such a hack.
All right. So I'm gonna let you go, Samantha, and we're gonna take the next caller. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and we are now talking with. I'm gonna attempt this, which I think is an Irish name. I'm gonna guess that is Chauvin in Missouri.
Hey, that's correct.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. And
Nice.
and let's see. You've asked the question. When is it okay to run away? Can you flesh that out for me, please?
Okay, so this is going to take a good bit of context, so I apologize in advance if I get a little wordy, as I say. So, Aron, you've been an activist for probably longer than I've been alive at this point. And as I've gotten more into politics as I grew up, I'm having a lot of conversations about the importance of getting involved in local elections and showing up at demonstrations to make sure you're part of the voices out there, being visible and everything, making change on the local level. And so here's the rub. This week, the Attorney General in my state made trans-affirming healthcare de facto illegal.
Okay, so that's the other state. Yeah, that's the other state I was talking about earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had made an appointment with my doctor next month, actually, to start the process of medically transitioning. And now I'm stuck with this conflicting desires to, on the one hand, stand my ground and fight the good fight, so to speak, but I also don't want to wait another 5, 6, who knows how many years to live my damn life the way I want to. So I'm struggling with the question of when are you justified in just packing your bags and moving away?
No, I get it. I know a few young trans people that because they live in Texas, and they've been trans for years and years, but Texas suddenly decided, hey, we're going to be religious rights people, so we don't give a fuck about human rights anymore. Right. And so the intelligent thing to do when you realize that you are not the gender that some doctor assigned you at birth, the intelligent time to do that, to make the transition, to begin that, the gender affirming care and all of that would have been during puberty, before you end up being 6 foot 8 inches tall, and have a beard, all of that. They would have been an intelligent time to do that. But the enormous hypocrites behind the entirety of religiosity have decided that you don't have the responsibility until not just 18, you got to be 21. They want to make sure that you're 21 before you can begin to be who you already know that you are. Now, I'm saying this I'm what they call a cisgendered heterosexual male. I've always been comfortable in my own skin. I know trans people who've never had that, who've had gender dysphoria, who have body shame issues. I just never had that. And I wish that other people could be so fortunate as I am. And I realize that I'm kind of a rarity. I feel for these people. I can't imagine what it would be like to look at the mirror and not see me. You know, what must that be like? But that's the impression I'm getting from other people. And what does the religious right care about? Not a fucking thing. They don't care about you. They care about imposing their own belief system. They care about controlling other people. And while they are lying about the gender affirming care and calling that genital mutilation, those same people are also advocating chopping the tips off the penises of newborn babies who cannot give consent and have no idea what's even happening to them, and also can't endure anesthetic. So look at the hypocrisy in that. Where the fuck is the justification behind any goddamn thing the religion does? And I realize I just said goddamn because I wanted to stress the hypocrisy, and I thought it would be best to use some of my own.
I prefer hitch damn, but that's just me. Shabana, I would say take care of yourself first, and then go back and fight the fight. But don't put off your own stuff. That's my personal feeling about it. You gotta take care of you, and then you can worry about everyone getting their stuff.
Yeah. Do you have the option of going to another place where you can get the care that you need right now?
Possibly. There's some trans affirming places like Planned Parenthood that are doing some emergency measures to try to get people's medications and things out as quickly as they can before the law goes into effect. So it may be, but long term, I am probably just going to have to move to another state.
It does sound that way. My wife, by the way, wants to get the hell out of this state because we are of advanced age. And she wants to be in a more progressive place where if we were to be diagnosed with something, terminal, that we would have the option of death with dignity, because another one of the things that the religious right doesn't allow, the only kind of death that the Bible doesn't endorse is the kind of death that comes with mercy. And so death with dignity is not allowed. They tell you, no, you have to endure all of the financial and emotional destruction of your family and all your resources. You have to endure all of that and all of the pain, all of it. Yeah. Now, if you have a dog with cancer, we can have the dog in a room full of people who love the dog, and everybody can be hugging the dog the minute we roll on the anesthetic. And I know that you wish that we would just roll on the anesthetic, but we can't. Why? Because we're absolutely fucking dickheads, and we believe in a religion that is a death cult full of hate. That's what it is.
No, absolutely.
Well, California is here for you.
It's just a pile of contradictions. But before I go, Aron, I've been binging your Classification of Life series. It's been a hugely educational thing for me so far. I just really appreciate your work, both in activism and in just general education.
Mind-blowing stuff. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your input, guys, and it was good to talk to you too, Mr. Deity. But thank you.
Oh, thanks. Go take care of yourself.
Yeah. Now, in the moment before this, a couple people in the chat have been wondering about what this is. This is a Dumerul's boa. This is one of the few boas that doesn't exist in the New World. This is an Old World boa. So this is on the island of Madagascar, or they were. They effectively don't exist anymore there.
Oh no!
Look at all the little tiki masks along her side. I like to pretend that these are the souls of the damned. But yeah, this species. I
think I see myself.
This species has been hunted to virtual extinction, but for the food, for their leather, and also, sadly, for magic. Just one more thing that superstition fucks up. So they effectively don't exist in the wilderness anymore. They only exist in the pet trade now. Sad that is.
That's horrible.
All right, so
That's horrible.
I'm going to take the next caller, and now we are speaking with Trudy. Trudy is an atheist, and she says, I believe religion is nothing short of child abuse. What are your thoughts? Go ahead and flesh that out for us, Trudy.
Oh, well,
Are you there, Trudy?
I was raised in church, and I grew up feeling inadequate and guilty and stupid because, for example, when I tried to pray, I just felt nothing, empty, and I just felt like it was something wrong with me. And, you know, they have all these hooks to keep you in once they get you, like man's wisdom is not God's wisdom, and don't go seeking after whatever other gods. It's just it took so much effort and concentration, or I don't know how to say it, but it was so hard to overcome that brainwashing.
Isn't it a convenient argument when they say that man's wisdom or God's wisdom is not man's wisdom, which is a nice Freudian way of admitting this makes no fucking sense, but we have no explanation for it.
Just don't think.
Yeah.
That's what it tells me. Don't think.
Trudy, I think a lot of people, a lot of people are just starting to see this, that kind of brainwashing. There's really no other way to say it. It's indoctrination. It's brainwashing. Is truly traumatic, and I think there are a lot more people who need to do some kind of trauma therapy. I've just come upon this myself with some of the stuff that I've been looking into with a therapist, and I'm going to be going and doing this new kind of therapy called eye movement direction reorientation, or something like that, EDMR or EMDR. I can't remember what it's called. It's supposed to help you process some of the trauma, but what you're talking about, to put these ideas into the mind of children, you are absolutely right that it's child abuse. I just did a video, I think it was last month or the month before, about Prager University talking about. No, it wasn't Prager University. It was an essay written by Dennis Prager, who talked about how kids go to college and they come back alienated from the religion of their parents, and sometimes even contemptuous of their parents. To which I made the point, well, it's the religion of their parents. It's not their religion. It's the religion you've been shoving into their heads since they took their first breath, since they were old enough to bow their heads and put their hands together and start praying to the imaginary sky god. It's not theirs. So when they go off to college and they start learning that, oh, gee, maybe some of this stuff that my parents forced into me for my first 18 years of life is bullshit. Yeah, don't expect them to come back and embrace what they didn't choose. They never got a choice in the matter, and it's just kind of shoved in them. And it's really, it can be incredibly traumatic depending on how. I mean, the stuff that you said is a big deal. I don't think people think about that. To grow up thinking that you're filthy and you're dirty and your body's dirty and you should be guilty for having feelings of sexual interest, and and being inadequate and not ever being able to please this being who by the way created you. So if he wanted you to be able to please him, he could have created you that way.
And thinking that way makes you feel even more guilty.
Yes, exactly. It's just a never-ending cycle of mental abuse within your head. So I would, if it's really still, you feel like it's affecting your life, I would talk to someone. There's actually people now who are doing, what is her name? Marlene Winnell. Do you know her, Aron? She
I don't.
started this whole
No,
specialty
No, I
in
really,
dealing with people.
I'm over
Sorry,
it.
what?
I'm
You are
totally
okay.
over it.
Well,
It does not
a
affect
lot
my
of people
life
need.
anymore.
Oh, good for you.
Well, I
There
want
are
to
a lot
hear
of
it.
people who actually need help.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
says
I hope.
she's over it, and while I appreciate you wanting to do the PSA for people who are not over it, Brian, we will get to that in a moment. I just want to hear her
Yes.
finish the statement about how she's over it.
Yeah.
Well, just looking at all the contradictions and how God is fucking not love, and I'm done. Although my brother and sister both say, "Yeah, I don't believe it," but what about end time prophecies? I'm like, "Oh, shut up."
Oh, I don't believe it, but I totally believe it.
Yeah. And
All right, so
emotionally, you think you've gotten over all of the crap with inadequacy and guilt and
The
all that
hardest
stuff.
part was the music. It touches my emotions.
Sure.
And made me feel like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I do have this in me,
Yeah.
But I've
Yeah.
overcome that too.
yeah.
Oh, good
I
for
guess
you.
I'm just
Good for
really
you.
lucky. For whatever reasons, only the satanic music ever appealed to me.
What is satanic music? I don't even know what satanic music is.
The good stuff, not Striper.
Doors.
I see. Okay. Now, who is this that we have joining us?
I was
Brian?
wondering if you would recognize this, Brian, since you live in California.
I don't know. What is it?
This is a California king snake.
It is. Okay.
Huh.
Okay.
Yep. It's a special morph, but it is the typical black and white banded of the California king snake. And I'm going to bring out a Texas version of a king snake here. Very different than this, but the Texas, you'll see enormous difference. Anyway, I want to thank our caller, Trudy. So quick, we drop you off and pick up the next call.
Oh,
Trudy just drove off
actually,
on her Harley.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hang up the call with Trudy. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trudy.
And then we're going to be talking with Alex B. Nichols.
Oh no, actually, that's the call screener. There's no more callers left on the line. So if you guys are ready,
no more. Oh, I'm sorry.
Super chats.
Okay.
Okay, it's a little early, but it's been
Good.
90 minutes, so it's about that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tell you sincerely, I'm tired of being so unprofessional on this show that I don't even know that I'm supposed to have this other window open when I start up. I feel a complete fool.
That's okay.
I don't know how you put up with me. I promise I will do better in the future. Anyway, so Brian's going to read super chats.
Yes, you are actually more bacteria than human. Annoys me to no end. That's only true by number of cells, not mass or volume. Love you, Aron. Keep up the good work. Good to meet you, Mr. Deity. I always say to the fine-tuning argument, if the universe is fine-tuned, it's fine-tuned for bacteria. It's not us. It's a fantastic, spectacular place for bacteria, and has been for a very long time. Certainly much longer than we've been around.
Well, before we go on to the next one, I just want to push. We don't have that many super chats for tonight, so if you are in the audience right now, send a super chat of $5 or more, and our host will read it out live for you guys. It is the main way that this channel is funded, so it's really huge if you can send those in. Also, check out our Patreon. That's a big deal. Patreon.com/calltheline.
Great. Look at this.
See how our Texas king snakes differ from your California king snakes.
Because they're
not
style.
socialist.
Yes. Yes.
Now this is the Blair's morph gray banded king snake, the particular morph from the region of Sanderson, Texas, because they get that specific.
Yeah, well, it's clearly wearing leather, whereas the California was not. That's my take on it. So you got more cows than we do. Although I don't know if that's even true. We have so many cows here in Central California; it's ridiculous.
You know what I was impressed by when I lived in California? I lived in you don't hear the accent unless I get drunk enough. But I used to live in LA, back in the 70s, and I noticed that that there was a hell of a lot of oil pumps everywhere.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I live right on the border of Long Beach, and there's a place called Signal Hill, which just used to be nothing but oil pumps. And my mom actually worked for a company, DBM Oil, when I was growing up, that owned a whole bunch of them on Signal Hill. Signal Hill's great. You can go up to the top of it and look out over all Long Beach. It's spectacular. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
You used to live in Long
amazing
Beach
too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm literally right on the like if I walk 100 feet in that direction, I'm in Long Beach. So, and most of my friends when I was growing up were in Long Beach. So I spent the vast majority of my time growing up in Long Beach instead of this tiny little town right next to it.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we lived in Huntington Park, Long Beach, Buena Park, Anaheim, Cudahy. I'm trying to remember because I was a kid for most of this. I mean, we lived on the border of Norwalk and Santa Fe Springs, which was really the border of
I'm near Santa Fe Springs. Yeah.
What's that?
I'm near Santa Fe Springs. I'm not very far at all. Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that the area has gotten better because I make the joke very often because it's not much of a joke really that I grew up in a Cheech and Chong movie.
Yes.
And I'm happy to say that when I came back to Santa Fe Springs as an adult, that the place was a lot nicer. It wasn't a Cheech and Chong movie anymore.
Yeah.
I also remember I remember being a middle school kid in the 70s, and there was always the issue of smog was so bad that we didn't have to do PE anymore because the sky was brown. But then later, when you get into late 80s, the sky's blue again. Go figure.
We have done a pretty good job, I have to say, in cutting emissions from the cars here. We kind of set the standard for the rest of the country because California says, "Oh, you got to bring it out. We got to get this many miles per gallon. You gotta have your cars weigh this much, and blah 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 blah." And then all the manufacturers have to, because California is such a car state with such a tremendous population, 40 million people, they have to make all their cars then, meet those standards. And yes, I remember when I was a kid, we would go out and play, and I didn't understand that it was the smog, but we would come in, and I could hardly breathe. It was hard to breathe, and it was horrible, just miserable. Yep. I haven't had anything like that, although I haven't done anything super physical lately. I have my e-bike on order. I'm getting my e-bike. It was supposed to come yesterday, and then all of a sudden I get a notification from UPS. Now it has no date of arrival. I don't know how that happens, but
you drive an EV, don't you?
No, but I don't hardly drive at all. I have a small little car that gets great gas mileage, but I'm it takes a lot for me to do my 6 videos every month. So I generally have to I generally have to take the first week of the month off to like collect myself again, but I start my research the second week, and then I start writing that third week, and then I go into production. And the production week is a lot of times it's 14, 16-hour days, and it's just go, 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 go. So by the time I post on Patreon the night of the last day of the month, I'm ready to put a gun in my mouth and call it a day. I gotta chill. I gotta chill for a week, to try to.
I wish I could come up with a more insane schedule like what you're talking about, because I love when I can drop out of one project and jump right into another one when I don't have to look up what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, I've been in that situation for a number of months where I know the very next video that I'm going to have to do. But
Right.
the schedule is nuts, and when you put in time for it, I have to do a debate tomorrow morning. I have to drive an hour away to be the opening debate at 9:30 in the morning. So I usually work nights, late nights, but no, I have to be an hour away at 9:30 in the morning. So I have to get up at 7 when I'm probably going to go to bed at 2. And I haven't written the opening argument yet, so I'm going to have to do that. And then I'm already working on another script that I've spent like 2 weeks doing. The science videos require so much research, because if you make a mistake in a science video,
Yes.
yeah. And so I'm going over with this person. I'm working over the script, and I've got this person who specializes in that area, and they says, well, no, there's actually this other thing. Well, hey, I need to know that like before I record.
Right.
So let's get that in there.
I don't know how you do. I don't know how you do what you do, because I basically just bloviate and shoot my mouth off. You're actually doing stuff where, and I'm like you. When I am talking about something that I need to know about, like for instance, yesterday I was writing about David Hume, and I just had this one part of it that I wanted to read, but then I started thinking, I should know more about David Hume. I read a lot of David Hume when I was coming out of religion and stuff like that. That's actually after I left religion, you start getting into all of that, and read a lot of Hume, but I'm not well versed on it anymore. My memories are crap. So I spent so many hours yesterday reading about David Hume and reading some Hume and stuff like that. So I understand you're the guy who wants to be, you want to get it right. I'm very much the same way. But what I do requires very little of that. And what you do, when I see your stuff, I always think, how the hell does he have the time to do this? Just because the research alone would kill me.
Yeah, but I get that. The research is a bear, and the sad thing is when I do the really science heavy videos, like right now I'm about to do tomorrow I'm going to record the last episode of my Arachnomorpha series, which is the evolution of spiders. Now, as you can imagine,
yes, I've seen.
That's not going to appeal to a whole lot of people.
Right.
If I do counter apologetics, if I get real dramatic, if I show up somewhere in a kilt and I'm arguing with idiots on the street, those things sell. Those are the videos that make money. The ones that take no preparation whatsoever, but the things that I have to spend weeks, literally weeks,
right,
doing where the editing of the complete, when I record the video and then the editing alone takes 3 days. And when I say 3 days, I don't mean 8 hours. I mean the entire time I'm awake.
You don't have to tell me. Yeah.
And then the views that it gets is something like a third of what the drama video got. That's frustrating.
Well, let me give a shout out to those, because they're far more fascinating than you would ever imagine. They are absolutely fascinating. Those videos that you do like that are like, if you like knowledge and just want to know things and kind of get enlarge your worldview and start to understand, especially things like that. I've only watched one of those, I'm sorry to say, because I'm busy too. But when you get into the minutia like that, it's just so cool. And really, everyone support this, because where else are you going to get that? Where else are you going to get that? I mean, it just doesn't exist on the planet. So someone's got to do it. And apparently the gods have assigned you. Thank heavens. Thank Hitchens, I should say. Thank Hitchens. They didn't get assigned to me. Should I read this next super chat?
Please do. Please do. Yes.
$10 from the Logical Larynx. Thanks. John says, the slave owner you, Aron, were referring to earlier in the show was named Robert Carter, and the YouTuber Dark Matter makes great funny content. Yes, Dark Matter is terrific. Yes,
he
absolutely.
is.
And non-stamp collector. There's another one that I really like. In terms of humor, in terms of
doing the comedy is. I mean, I've done comedy, but it's not that easy. You know, so I'm really impressed with what from you and from Dark Matter. Amazing stuff. The way that he does parody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the stuff that I think can be very effective just because of, like I said, it's hard to ignore stuff that you're laughing at. Because it's you do it involuntarily and your body knows, oh shit, there's some truth to that. I don't even want to think about it, but oh shit, you said something that was kind of true. It's Homer's line. It's funny because it's true. We know that instinctively. 13.99 from Nilly Wilson. That's a good one. That's a
Yep.
And such a strange number. I get people
So it's
super chatting me
$13.99
$6.
Canadian.
Ah, there we go. I see that, and I see California, but I get it. I get people super thanks. I get the super thanks because I don't do really chats, but I get the super thanks for 666. I always like getting those.
Okay. And we have another one. This is $4.99 from the Raven 200. And it came to pass that Raven. Oh, wait, wrong show. Aron, tell Abba to stop trying to convince me to eat from fruit trees. Thank you.
That's funny.
The Raven there was using the face of Abba, the singer from Immortal, and also from Abba, who is the black metal singer for whom my snake is named. Yes. All right, now we have $5 from Eddie Dean, and he says, since nobody's told you, let me be the first to say, at Mr. Deity, look at that gorgeous head of yours.
Call me. We'll get together later. You're my new best friend.
All right, and $19.99 from Nuzzy D. Wow. Thank God the line retuned, unlike some gods I could name. When dealing with everyday folks, when do you turn to humor/ridicule without being nasty or alienating? Stay awesome, y'all. Lovingly, go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Well, Jimmy's not here, but go fuck yourself.
I'll pass that on to him. I'll text him after we get off.
Brian, you got this one?
Red Rose. $5 from Red Rose, R10. Just wanted to say hi. And I'm just going to get high later on in the evening.
Okay. Same, for sure.
Something I do every night.
Well,
I'm the one guy in California, by the way. Yeah, I'm the one guy in California who's actually using marijuana for a medicinal purpose because I have terrible insomnia. So it really does help me. $19.99 from the Raven 200. On the topic of snakes, when did you get into snakes, or have you always been into them? I used to be scared of them until around 14. Good to see you and Mr. Deity. GFY, I won't say it. Wait, Jimmy ain't here. Crap. So there's two. I'll be texting Jimmy later. Hey, you got two. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, I've been into kind of. I've had the invertebrates. I've had pet scorpions. I've had pet spiders. I've had snakes. I've had lizards. I was in the Weekly World News as the only story that they could verify was actually true. Honestly, it was an expose on the Weekly World News just before they closed out, where they said there was this one story that they did called, police do battle with giant prehistoric reptile, where this was actually my lizard that broke out of the house and the police shot it, and that got into the Weekly World News. No kidding, that was me.
What?
Yeah, not that anybody saw it, but I had a Salvador water monitor from Malaysia, which was so far beyond my capacity. I mean, you see my setup right now, right? I couldn't manage to house one of those animals now.
Wow.
How did I think I could have done that in my 20s?
Wow.
A 7 to 9 foot man-eating lizard, and I'm going to just take care of that. But I was an idiot.
Yeah.
Because I was in my 20s. I think we're all stupid at that point, and I was especially so.
We are. Yes, we are absolutely stupid in our 20s. Canadian $20. What is that worth, by the way? Is their money better than our money? I don't even know. I have no idea if they get more stuff for their money than we do.
Theirs is
Canadian
plastic,
20.
so it lasts longer.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good. Well, no, it's not, because it's going to screw up the environment. From Nellie Wilson, what are each of your favorite theists to debate, talk to? What are each of your favorite theists to debate or talk to? Well, I don't really do debates. I don't know that any of them would debate me, because I'm a satirist, and I'm just going to mock you and make fun of you the whole time. And I don't think anyone wants that. I couldn't do like a standard debate like you do. I think you're great at that. There's so many of you guys who are doing that so well. But I would just,
I gotta tell you, I got to tell you, I'm going to be doing a debate tomorrow. I'm going to be at DebateCon tomorrow. But the thing is I don't like the live debates, and I'll tell you why. Is because I'm supposed to write. This is true. I'm supposed to write my argument and my rebuttal. I'm supposed to have those composed before I walk in. How am I going to rebut an argument I haven't heard yet?
That was going to be my first question. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Now, if you do your debates like you do against Dennis Prager, well, now you have a chance to actually check the source material. When he cites something, you can read it. And what I've seen, when every single time that a young Earth creationist ever cites a scientific document, says this, this study says this, I read that document and find out it doesn't say that. It actually says something very different, and usually the opposite of that. But in live debate, you don't get that. So that's the only place where the creationists can still perform, because they can be some kind of a showman. You want to be polite enough to give them the benefit of the doubt. They pull up some study you've never heard of and say that it says X, and you know that it can't say X. What can you say about that on the fly if you haven't read it? So I prefer the way you do with Dennis Prager. So I'm going to answer for you, Dennis Prager.
I enjoy my Prager FU series. It's very cathartic, and since we had a falling out in 2008, it just touches my soul to take him on and show. So he's gotten, back when we were good friends back in the late 80s and early 90s, he wasn't the same person. I mean, he was still a right winger, but like I said, he was a moderate, fairly moderate guy. He was pro-choice. He had a classical liberal upbringing. Yes,
he was pro-science at one point.
And you can literally see him. You can watch or listen to his radio show in 2015, 2016. In 2015, he is so against Trump. He is going after him left and right. He does not want Trump to get the nomination. He's calling him a buffoon. He's talking about what an idiot he is. And then he gets the nod. And I don't even think it had to do with him getting the nod so much as he didn't want to go the way of Michael Medved, who Michael Medved stayed never Trump. And he doesn't have a radio show anymore. He lost everything.
I remember sharing a video with you that I did on Dennis Prager years ago, when Prager said that he doesn't care if somebody believes that the Earth is 6,000 years old or 4 billion years old. He says, what I care about is whether you're denying medical science and refusing vaccines and blah, 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 blah. And now he's a vaccine denialist. He's an anti-vaxxer.
Yes.
The guy is contradicting himself.
He
from
has
not that
sold
many
his
years
soul.
ago.
Yeah. He's completely sold his soul. But I think if I did get to debate someone who I see in debates a lot, I would love to debate William Lane Craig, because I think William Lane Craig is the most pompous, disingenuous, dishonest stack of crap in Christian apologetics. In fact, I'm working on some videos for this month where he's oh my God, and he just did an interview with Alex O'Connor, who I really like. I love these the younger guys coming up. Alex is one of the good ones.
Do you know Alex O'Connor?
I don't know Alex, but he just let Low Bar Bill, and I'm happy to have been the one to give him that moniker. That's gonna be put on my tombstone. Um, he just let him get away with so much stuff, and I was like, Alex, what are you doing? See, I couldn't do that. That's where I can't do an interview like that, because if you say something stupid, I'm going to tell you to your face, that is the stupidest fucking shit you just said. Are you kidding me? This is a guy who has a master's in theology and a PhD in philosophy, and he can't think his way out of a paper bag. And Christians, understand that even if you get that level of education, what your Christian theology and your Christian indoctrination and your devotion to the doctrine and the dogma is going to do to you is turn you into a functional idiot. You have to know that. Just go watch him. Watch him. He says the stupidest things.
I will tell you, Brian, that I saw a Alex O'Connor video where he cut out a clip from William Lane Craig talking to him, where he said he apologizes for the Queen's recent demise. Yes. and how important the Queen was. And for those who haven't seen it, and Alex O'Connor is making this kind of awkward face while this whole apology is going on, and at the same time he's showing that the little clip where Alex O'Connor is talking about how the entire royal family should have died with the Queen.
Yes. He is not by the way, a fan of the monarchy.
I have met Alex O'Connor a number of times. I'm proud to say he is brilliant, and I've been in his
Stephen
dorm
too,
room.
Right?
Yes. I've been in Alex O'Connor's dorm room in Oxford, and feeling very pompous. Yes. And finding that I was not, that there are much more celebrated figures that have been in that dorm room before me. I mean, like hugely important people, like world stage people. So I'm very pleased that I ever had the opportunity to meet Alex O'Connor. And yes, Stephen Woodford, I assume you're referring to. I've been in his studio as well. And again, very proud to have associated with such people. Now there are those who will have criticisms with either one, and I'm sure there's going to be people that have, of course, probably legitimate criticisms with me. But I don't tend to put everybody or anybody. I don't tend to put anybody in a box according to the one thing that I disagree with. That's never been me.
Right.
You and I may disagree, and I don't. In your case, oddly enough, I don't actually know what we don't agree on. But in other cases, what I tend to do, and I'm not being facetious. Well, what I tend to do is there are people that I may disagree on this point, but we have a common interest, common enemy, and a unity on this other point, and that's what I'm going to focus on to get what we both want to achieve. Right. And the other thing is peripheral and irrelevant in this instance. And later on, we can argue about that. Right. That's the approach that I take. So although I'm unapologetically a leftist, cancel culture is not something that you can pin on me.
Right. I'm the same way. I'm very live and let live, where I take the good and then I leave the bad. I get dumped on for if I mention Pine Creek because of his politics, but his street epistemology and his ability to change minds on the religion thing is so powerful. And in fact, this last week, I had such a good day this last week. Someone went to one of my early videos and watched it. I think it was episode 5, the 5th Mr. Deity episode with Lucy. And they wrote, and this is why there's Pine Creek. And I wrote back, what the hell is that about? What do you mean? What are you saying? And he said, well, apparently Doug said that you were a huge influence on him in getting him to leave religion. And then the next morning on my walk, I'm listening to his show. I do a 3-mile walk every morning. I'm listening to his show, and he says, someone says, how did you get out of religion? And he says, well, I started doing this, and I started being able to laugh at stuff. Mr. Deity had a real impact on me. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, there we go. And one of the things that I'm most thrilled about that for is that there's 2 other young guys that I really love James Fedor, I don't know if you've heard his stuff. I think he's in New Zealand. I think he might have a master's or a PhD in philosophy, and he's fantastic. He wrote this great book on called Unreasonable Faith, all about William Lane Craig. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're interested in that kind of thing, pick it up. And then there's this other kid, young guy, Nathan Ormond, who goes by Digital Gnosis on thing. And I had just found out maybe 2 months ago that Nathan used to be a born again Christian and a Jordan Peterson follower. And he went on with Doug from Pine Creek, and he got turned by Doug. So I felt like I have something to do with Nathan's turning now, because I had something to do with Doug. And it was such a good feeling. I was like, oh my God, I feel so good, because I love all these young guys. I just fucking love them. I fucking love them. Alex is
You hear
great.
that?
Steven
Brian
is great.
Dalton loves young guys.
I love young guys. I know that's going to be clipped, and we're gonna take that out. But I think they're all so awesome, and they're so bright and articulate, and it's just amazing. I mean, I've been loving Steven's ripping Prager apart. I think he's done 4 videos on Prager's masterclass, and I did one last month. Mr. Deity started. I started a Mister's class to take on the master's class. So I'll be doing more of those. Right. The Mister's.
If we're still talking about Woodford. We're talking about Woodford, Rationality Rules.
Yeah.
Yes, what he did with Dennis Prager, fucking genius.
Oh my God! Especially this last one where he shows how he's taken parts from 3 different articles and tried to put them together to make a point that's not made in the source material that he's making. It's absolutely devastating. If you want to see how dishonest these people are, go watch Steven's stuff. It's really good stuff. After you watch,
I'm going to read this next. I'm going to read this next chat. We have £10 from Mock Powell.
10 pounds. Yes.
Love your work, Aron. When are you coming back to the UK? All the best to you both, Mark. Well, that's up to you. My last time in London probably cost more than I could afford. So somebody else is going to have to. Yeah, somebody else is going to have to arrange the place to stay and the plane fare. But I was in an enormously lucky position in that there was a few years of my life where I was able to go to London twice a year, every year for like 6 years, and I love London. I love it's something about it's just the tube. I think that I love. I love that my wife and I and one of our kids we would go down from the Airbnb that we were in, and we would decide, okay, well, I'm going to go to Camden. My wife wants to go to the some other district, and my daughter wanted to go to Soho, and we're all going to meet back at this other place, at 5, and we can all just the tube station is right across the street, and so we all go. Nobody has a car. Mm-hmm. That's so alien to people who live in Texas. Where that's just a completely different way of getting about life.
Look at where I live. This is why. This is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons why New York is my home away from home. I had 2 of my best friends live in New York, and I used to go back a couple times a year before the pandemic. I haven't been back since. But it's my favorite thing to not have to have a car. Oh, it's just absolute heaven. And to be able to get around so easily. Because even if you have a car here, it's misery. You're sitting on freeways to go. I mean, my gosh, my last girlfriend was 22 miles away, and depending on when you left, it could take you an hour and 45 minutes to get 22 miles.
Okay, so 22 miles insane. 22 miles here in Dallas is 30 minutes. 22 miles in London is 2 hours. And likewise in Los Angeles, we were going to go to Venice Beach, and then we were going to go to the Rainbow Bar and Grill, which was where our apartment was. I actually got an apartment in Lemmy's building, and I think it was Lemmy's apartment. I think I was actually that I booked and I rented Lemmy's real apartment. It was just something. It looked familiar when I got in here. I'm like, this is where a rock star lives, and I didn't. I found out later this actually was Lemmy's building, but we're right across the street. But anyway, we're right across the street from the Rainbow. But the thing is, to go to Venice Beach and then to the Rainbow, that doesn't seem like much, right? You go to one place and then another. But if you're in LA, that's all damn day.
I was with a friend of mine a few years back, and she lives in Santa Monica, and we just wanted to go up to near UCLA, which is, I want to say, if it's 5 miles, it would shock me, because there was a chocolatier. She knew that I'm a chocolate addict, and she wanted to take me to this chocolate place and get some stuff. And we drove over there, and it took us 35 minutes to get 5 miles. I mean, it's just insane. In that area, on surface streets, it's just, oh my God.
So it's just like London if you don't have the tube. If you make the mistake of taking a cab,
and we don't. We don't have anything. We have almost no public transportation, which is why I don't consider Los Angeles a real city. It's just such a. It's like nobody planned anything here. It's like everyone just settle wherever you want, and then we'll figure things out later. And then no one figured things out later. It's an insane city.
You used to be able to take the red car for a nickel, but then that one tune judge took it over and ruined the whole thing.
That's right. I'm
going to read another super chat. We got $10 from Jordan. What is that? Jordanime 88 says, "Keep being awesome," and I think he must be referring to you, sir.
Okay, I'll take that. I will. I promise. You have my. Yeah, I'm in. Here we go. You want me to read this one?
Yes.
$5 from Evan Gannon. What is your response to people who say there are health risks to early transitioning?
Are there health risks involved in anything? Everything?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Yeah. It's a weird question. I'm sure people ask that all the time. I'd love to know what they are. I'd want to see studies. Serious studies. You know, one of the things that horrifies me about this, and I mentioned this in a video a while back, we're so behind the curve on knowing what we really need to know about all of this in so many ways, because Christianity has so suppressed just basic. I mean, there's so many basic things. You know, the gun nuts won't let us study gun violence. The anti-drug people won't let us study the value of the medicinal value of the drugs that we've had on Schedule 1, like stuff like marijuana, which cracks me up. That's a Schedule 1 drug. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And here's another area where because people couldn't even come out and talk about this stuff without really like risking life and limb in this country, we're behind on everything. I just hope that we're able to take advantage of other countries in the world where this stuff has been, more easily.
If I could cut in as the editor and the host of the Transatlantic Call-In Show, first of all, the first thing you should say is call in the Transatlantic Call-In Show. Secondly, believe it or not, this has actually been studied pretty well. Granted, there are very reasonable critiques to make of the methodology of these studies, but they're restraints that are present in all research on medicine for kids. Because there's ethical restrictions on how you can study stuff. You're not going to get a double-blind placebo trial for transition. That's just not possible.
Yes.
But actually, the regret rates are extraordinarily low, far lower than far less controversial treatments. So
I do know
there are health risks, but they are only if people don't follow the medical guidelines. For example, if somebody doesn't... if somebody exceeds taking puberty blockers for 2 years without either ceasing the use or proceeding on to actual cross-sex hormones, there is a risk of degeneration of your bone density. But again, that's only if you are on puberty blockers for a time exceeding 2 years without then progressing on to the next stage of treatment, all of which is covered in the medical guidelines. So there's really no
Right.
serious risk that's not present in any other health treatment that would be being given to kids for any other condition.
That's excellent info. I want to add one more thing, which you can tell me whether this is in my own reading. In terms of the regret rate, the biggest regret is not doing it sooner. Is that correct? Did I read that correctly somewhere?
I don't. So my understanding of the data suggests that the largest study on trans people said that about 2.6% report regret rate, but 60% of that group said the reason they regretted was actually because they were harassed by their peers, they were discriminated against in education, healthcare, the workplace, their family, their loved ones, their spouse rejected them. Those are the biggest reasons people regret transition.
Right.
It almost
Right.
never has anything to do with actually not being trans. That does happen, but it's exceedingly low. Most people know their gender, and the healthcare that follows is very much evidence-based care.
But if I remember
Yeah,
correctly, the one thing for which there is the most regret is not doing whatever they did sooner.
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe that's
that's definitely what I know in talking to trans people and being a trans person myself. That's definitely, and it's something
Yes.
that I can relate to. But I don't know if I've seen
Right.
that specifically in the data. I mean, I don't know if you
Okay.
need data for
Okay.
that. Though.
I gotta try to find. I gotta try to find out. I remember reading that somewhere, and I can't remember where it is. But that's
A couple
I
of
think that's
common
a big
prejudices.
deal, though. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, Aron.
A couple of common prejudices that I just don't understand is why people who are like myself, comfortable in being in being born who we are. We're comfortable in our gender identity. We've never had the dysphoria. Why then would someone like myself in that situation be upset at other people for having gender dysphoria? Why would it matter to me what somebody else is going through? I mean, to the point that I want to prohibit them.
Right.
I'm trying to imagine a situation where somebody else's body identity or gender identity or sexuality or whatever matters so much to me that I want to impede their happiness. I just don't get. Does that make sense? That I don't understand
Yes, and
why.
I do think the reason is because God. And what I mean by that is these kinds of things really do mess with some of the foundational ideas of who God is and what he would do. For instance, if he does in fact create us all, and he creates homosexuals, and he creates people who feel like they're born into the wrong bodies, well, how powerful is he? How all-loving is he? How all-knowing is he? I think all of this stuff, it really is. It's just everything becomes a constant threat to God, and they're going to protect him. They're just going to protect him because that's their job. He can't fend for himself. I don't know if you know that,
Because
Aron, but this all-powerful God.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
all powerful.
he-
He needs all the protection.
But he's so completely impotent. It's amazing. Get him a Viagra. Somebody get
Yeah,
God a
and I
Viagra.
noticed when you asked this question, somebody in the chat pointed out, "Hey, Evan, you're asking a couple of cis old dudes."
Yes, that's true. Yes, that is very true.
All right, so I'm going to read this one.
Not quite
$5.
boomers, though. Not quite boomers, right?
Sorry,
Are you officially a boomer?
just barely.
Yeah,
I was in the last
I'm
year.
65. I'm 65, so I made it out okay. I'm all right. You can't boomer me.
Okay, you're older than me, and you look better than me. Okay.
Well, then you're not a boomer because what I understand is the boomer cutoff is 64. I'm taking that. If it's untrue, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to be religious about it.
Okay, if it's
$5
untrue, you don't want to hear it.
I
I'll
don't want to hear
respect
it.
that.
All right. $5 $5 from RPG Debunks. Well, it's easy to debunk people with an RPG, just so you know. We collectively took down the Missouri Concern website. Just wanted to share that. Oh, that's nice. Then I wrote a script just in case because F them.
Because of them. Well, maybe you're right. That doesn't say because of them. That because F
I think
them.
it's because F them. Yes.
Yeah, that's
well. Good, nice. That's what you can do with an RPG.
And then 1999 from Megengo. I like this. I want to say that again. Megengo.
That is fun. Megengo. Megengo. It sounds like an old blaxploitation movie. Megengo. It's like
great
from the
show
70s.
tonight. Great show tonight. Looking forward to seeing you at DebateCon, Aron Ted DJ, and I can't. What is it? Is There's a hot wing place a few miles from where I house, and their hottest wing at the moment is Ted, and I can't remember what it stands for. And anyway, it says, any thoughts on your topic / opponent? My opponent is not an opponent. I'm debating with T-Jump. And I don't know why he chose this, but he wanted to argue, does religion do more harm than good? And I think I'll give him this. This is an interesting topic because it's not a simple yes or no, right? Just the way the question is phrased. So we both accept at the onset that religion is full of horrible atrocities. And we both accept at the onset that they do some PR bullshit trying to save their public image. And maybe in modern day, they're a little bit more interested in PR because, historically, when they were the ultimate authority, they were just wholly corrupt and absolutely evil. So there's actually a consideration there, I think, on both sides, where we're both going to walk into this thinking, I wouldn't be terribly upset about being wrong about this. Right. Neither does it really matter. So I'm a little bit torn. I'm surprised that he wanted to do this. Maybe he just wanted a challenge. But honestly, if I was in that position of wanting a challenge, I would argue for young Earth creationism because I know that I would do a better job than most young Earth creationists. I just have to get drunk enough and I can exceed all of them.
Yes. You kill enough brain cells, you can be really good at that. Yeah.
All right. So you want to take this one, Brian?
Yes. $9.99 from Zachary Crawford. I'm currently a skeptic coming from Christianity. I'd like to know how to navigate telling my family and dealing with them trying to reconvert me. LOL. Oh, that's a good one. Boy, what do you say, Aron? What's your advice?
Oh, shit. You passed it over to me. I was hoping to pass it over to you. I failed. I failed. If my mother, my mother is kind of dependent on my support. I'm very much responsible for my mother these days, but everybody else in my family just changed their phone number. They don't want to talk to me anymore. It was understandable that I didn't believe in God. They didn't have a problem with that so much. Right. Although honestly, before they ever realized I was an atheist, they realized that I wasn't one of them. So they already had a problem with me. I don't know why I didn't fit with my own family ever. But the last straw was when I didn't worship the orange god. That was it.
Yes. Oh, that's very interesting. I used to have some very dear friends that I met while I was working with Prager that we stayed friends for a very long time. And they knew I was an atheist. And like I said, it took me a long time to jump the political ship. And once I jumped the political ship, that's it. They wouldn't take my calls anymore. I haven't talked to them ever since, which is amazing to me. My advice would be to go in and just and be as empathetic as you can in terms of understanding, trying to see it from their point of view, that you're possibly telling them that you're going to burn for hell. I don't know, for all eternity, and understand that their minds have been poisoned with this idea and the suffering that it's going to cause them to think that you've lost your eternal salvation. Just be empathetic towards that, and don't expect too much. They may just. My parents were actually pretty good. The funny thing about my situation is my dad, who never bought it. He was more upset than my mom, who was the true believer. And I jokingly say, I think he was upset that he just didn't know you could get out. And I discovered it before he did. By the way, he became an atheist at 82. After actually about 80, closer to 83. My mom died when he was 82, and he read the Bible. And I came over to his house one day, and he said, I want to talk to you. Can you come sit down and talk to me? And I was like, oh shit, oh no. I had no idea what it was about. And he took out my mom's big giant print Mormon Bible. He held it up and he said, have you read this? I said, yeah, Dad, I've read this. And he said, this is the most disgusting shit I've ever read in my life. And he went on this tirade of how awful the Bible was and pointing out all the little things. And I said, well, yeah, Dad, that's kind of why. Remember when I came and talked to you all those years ago? And, I think it was 7 years before my mom died, that I had the talk with them where I told them I'd left. So, but just,
did you say this
just
was
try to be empathetic.
Did you say this was your dad?
My dad. Yeah.
That's
my dad.
That's heavy. And the only thing I could say to console your father when he says that this is the most disgusting, repugnant piece of shit that I've ever read in my life, I would have to respond, just to be nice, I would have to respond and say, well, you obviously haven't read the Book of Mormon or the Quran.
As we've been finding out. And it came to pass that I, Nephi, and it came to pass. Oh, my Lord. Oh, well, it's not, maybe it's not as repugnant, but it's so much so poorly written. Yeah, that's funny. That's very funny.
All right. Okay, do we have any more? Do we have any more super chats?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Here's maybe like 10 or 12 more.
10?
Okay,
all
here's
right.
$5.
I'll get through. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You please.
Oh, okay. All right. $5 from Eddie Dean at the line. Please make some emotes for members. Maybe a no, a GFY, or maybe Team Katy, hashtag Team Katy Arden, and Dr. Ben, love the show. Dr. Ben, love the shows. All of them. Okay, great.
Yeah, I want to offer some congratulations to student Dr. Ben, who is no longer, as of this week, no longer student Dr. Ben. He's just Dr.
nice.
Ben.
Nice. Nice.
All right, so I'm going to read this one. $10 from Tall Girl 195. You guys are both great. I guess Arden is cool too. Also, go fuck yourself, Jimmy, and GFM. Okay, help me out. What is GFM?
Go fuck myself? That's what I'm thinking.
Arden, what do you say that is?
I think someone did this a couple weeks ago, and we were like, "Oh, go fuck Matt," but that was not it. I don't know. I have no idea. Someone in the chat, let us know.
Go fuck Matt Walsh. Yeah. $5 from Pibblepunk. Aron is the coolest old man on the internet. Hey! At least now James Randi and George Carlin are gone. Okay, but I'm a close second. I'm a very close second. And I look older.
I want to say, when I met you, you don't look older. You do not. And that irritates me. And that irritates. I met you.
That's how I feel about Richard Carrier, the bastard. He doesn't age.
I met you at the Amazing Meeting in Las Vegas. I have to tell you, just to let you know, I had seen every episode of this
Mr.
show that you
Deity?
did that just Mr. Deity. Thank you. I had seen every episode of
Yes.
Mr. Deity, and I loved them all. I loved the wit, all of the subtleties and the humor. That it's just, you put in so many jokes that most people wouldn't even realize that these are jokes, but they're just like just a little stab, and you would have to know the background information to know what he just said there.
Yeah.
I picked up on all of that. And when I met you,
Oh, that's
you had
awesome.
no idea who I was, but that was cool. I was excited to meet you.
I remember
you
just thinking,
on
who is this Hulk of humanity?
Right, and that's why I lament when I feel bad about this sincerely. I really thought when I said, "Hey, I'm going to see you next week," a week or two ago, I honestly thought that you were going to meet an American Atheist in Phoenix, and I'm sorry that. I felt so bad about that because I really thought you were going to be there, and I was looking forward to like having drinks. And
I am so dissociated from the community because I live such a solitary life, and then when I'm not, I'm generally with my dogs or a girlfriend, and that's all I do. I just try to pump these videos out, and thankfully I love what I do, but I am very isolated. I got to try to extend myself a little more and just become a little bit more of the community. I'm terrible at that.
It would be fun to see you at a few more conferences.
I did used to have a great time, and I met so many great people and made so many good friends at TAM. I miss that TAM is no longer around, because that was a really great place to meet people. $9.99 from Julie Cordova. Aaron, I was wondering if you have even listened to Stoned Jesus. I don't know who Stoned Jesus is.
I'm going to guess no. I mean, I know who Jesus is, but I've never met him stoned.
Or maybe he was stoned the whole time. That's why he was so loving. He was on MDNA. He was just like, I love everybody. Just, if someone wants your coat, doesn't that sound like something someone like super high would say? If someone wants your coat, just give them your cloak too. Don't be a bitch about it, man. I mean, just come on.
I want to see more videos like what you did recently, where you were talking about how Matthew and Mark were written, and you're playing Matthew and Mark. Yeah. That was brilliantly done, sir.
I have more of those that I want to do, and I don't think that was such a stretch. What I did either is that Mark writes this gospel that it's like, if you're reading it, you're like, boy, there's no origin story there, and the ending, the ladies just run off and don't tell anybody. There's no appearances, and then Matthew goes, "Oh, I can do better than that." And then immediately he's going to start writing his own version based on what Mark wrote. I don't think that's far off from what happened. The details aren't right, but clearly somebody read Mark and went, "Oh no. We got to." He's got to have some kind of miraculous. For God's sake, Caesar is born of a virgin. We got to have, something like that. There's got to be some kind of spectacular stuff going on, and then he has to come back and show everyone that he really is resurrected. Otherwise, how are we going to know? It's so silly. You want me to get this?
That was a very brilliant video. Let me read this one, and you'll read the next one. $9.99 from Tommy Thomas. Aaron, you helped me deconstruct Mr. Deity. Go Devils!
Go Devils! People freaking love the Go Devils thing. And by the way, I just have to shout out, I have a good friend, Anna Maltese, who used to be an animator on The Simpsons, and she did that. She did the Devils mascot. And if you look at it close, it looks like Prager. It looks like Prager, my little Devils mascot. Whenever I say that on the PragerU videos, it looks just like him. She's amazing. She's terrific. She's been on Mr. Deity. She played Ashura on Mr. Deity once.
Nice. Have you ever gotten any kind of feedback from Prager?
No.
Ever?
No. He wouldn't ever talk to me again. The last time I don't even know if I should say this. The last time I heard from him, I was threatened with legal action. And that was back in 2000, I want to say 2010, 2011. And it had to do with something personal that I had gone on his Facebook page and told a lot of people about. And I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to get into legal trouble. And I don't think they could get me because I think first of all, it's absolutely true and all of that, but who wants the hassle? So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
I don't want to push it either.
One?
Yes, please.
Shall I get this one? 666.
Yes.
Ah, look at that. 666 from how do you say that? Marheta?
I'm going to say Marheta. Yeah.
Sedlnick. Brian, you always make me laugh. Do you plan to make any more Mr. Deity videos? I miss Lucy. Yeah, Lucy's never going to be on another Mr. Deity video. She's done. I might be able to get Jesus on one again if I really begged him. I'm sure he would. If Larry was in town, Larry's in, I don't even know. He's moved like 3 times in the last 5 years, so I don't even know where he's at anymore. He would certainly do one if he were in town, or I could call him and ask him if he would just do some stuff. I do have ideas, and I still do one every now and then. The last one I did, what was the last one I did? Oh, the last one was where Mr. Deity gets visited by another Mr. Deity from the multiverse, from another universe, and they're very unhappy with him because of the shitty universe he's created. And he's embarrassing all the rest of the Mr. Deities, and they want him to pick up his game.
I saw that one.
The one before that is one of my all-time favorite Mr. Deities. It's just me on a phone conversation, so it's very Bob Newhart. Big fan, huge fan of Bob Newhart. And he's calling Mary Magdalene to tell her that Jesus is dead again, because they didn't understand that when he rose up, that at a certain point, they don't know exactly what happened, if he died from not enough oxygen or he froze to death going up into the stratosphere and the thermosphere and all of that stuff. And then they think that he might have just burned up, which Mr. Deity says is kind of ironic, once he got outside of the atmosphere, either from the radiation or whatever. So it's one of my favorite episodes, Mr. Deity and the Ascension. Go check that one out. That's a favorite of mine. And my hair looks really good in that one too. So that's another important part of it.
All right, $10 from Lut the Pirate Gut. Aron, live your stuff. MD, I'll have to look into your stuff. And tell Jimmy, go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. And, is that 4?
Did I happen to hear Arden in the background at some point? Love her too. Call screener for life too. Is that all? Love you. Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, that is.
I want to tell you, Brian, when I met you that one time that I was just talking about, we were driving back from the amazing meeting, and I remember my son was in the back seat, and he started proposing that I should be on your show. We should do the Mr. Deity thing, and that I should play Odin. And
we talked about that. Yes,
he just spat out this entire skit. And it was so fucking funny. We're all rolling as we're driving through the desert in the car at night. You know, it was so fucking funny. But then nobody could remember any of it the next day.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. I was just going to say, did anyone write anything down? Oh, that's funny.
Sadly, no.
Yeah,
it was so good.
I've thought of several roles for you over the years. And if you're ever in LA, we really do have to do one at some point. That would be fun.
That would be. Thank you very much for that.
I'll read this one.
Please.
$5 from Emery King. Here is $5 for 5 minutes. If Aron's I think it's supposed to be of Aron's Snake Talk. Also, Arden, thanks for jumping in on that trans question. I appreciate you. Also, go fuck yourself, Jimmy. So that's fine.
I think it's funny when people call in the Book of Mormon show to ask me about the Quran. and I get a little confused. That show's over with.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that they don't have anybody else to ask about the Quran. So I get that.
Yes, that's true.
All right. So are there any more, Arden? Surely there's more, right? Okay, here we go.
And one more.
$4.99 from the Raven 200. Since Jimmy isn't here, get hit with a supercharged United States and smash by all might, Aron, and have a nice day.
Wow.
There are hidden messages in there that went.
Yes, I think so. I'll get this one. $5 from Winter's Scoop. Have you seen the new Texas laws that are being pushed through about 10 commandments in every public schoolroom and time set aside for Bible reading? Oh my God.
Yeah, I did a video about that earlier today, in fact. And that's why I'm wearing this shirt. Everybody read this shirt?
The first, what is it? Wait a minute. The first commandment? Is that what it says? The first commandment contradicts the First Amendment. Yes, very true. And I know which one I prefer.
And that is the last super chat. So
it sounded like he went crashing down the stairs just now.
Yeah, there was a bit of a fumble there in the background.
Yeah, there's a Mr. Deity episode. I think it's called Mr. Deity and the Bang. It's from the 4th season where we finally get to the Big Bang. And I asked Larry do we still have that singularity laying around? And he says, yeah, and he goes off and looks, and then there's all this commotion, like he's just going through all this shit that's on the floor somewhere. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And I would have to say, yeah, we have a few of them. How can you have a few singularities?
Yeah, well, that's part of the joke. That's part of the joke. Do we still have that singularity lying around? Like, it's just, you can go to Singularities Are Us and pick one up. That episode, by the way, that's the longest episode of Mr. Deed. I think it's 12 and a half minutes. And I had the brilliant idea to score the entire episode, and it nearly killed me. To anyone who scores movies, I bow down to you. I bow down to you. I bow down to you. You're just amazing. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Oh, you have a corgi too?
Well, mine is a Dachshund Corgi mix, and they call that breed a Dorgie.
A Dorgie. A Dorgie. I have my little Havanese, who is a super genius, and then my Greyhound, who's a speedster. She did 42 miles an hour when she was on the track.
I want to cut in really quick and say before you guys wrap and plug your stuff and say goodbye. Thank you so much to Alex B. Nichols for call screening for us today. We really appreciate you. And thanks, Jen. I know you're not feeling well, but thank you for being the moderator in chat. We love what you do. We're super grateful for all your work. And thanks to all the viewers who came to show up and support the show. We really appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Yes. Thanks to everyone.
If you want to go ahead and do your plugs, Brian, and then we will close out the show.
Oh. Yeah, well, on YouTube, it's Mr. Deity, the Mr. Deity channel, which is MisterDeity. I can spell. Don't go to Mr. Deity. You're just going to get bad food advice. Mr. Deity, Deity. And then on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Mr. Deity, MrDeity. No period, no anything like that. Just Mr. Deity, MrDeity.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you all next week.
Thanks, everyone who called in, and thanks, Aron. Thanks, Arden.